In the Wuthering Waves 2.2 update, we are going to get access to the third element of the Rover, being Aero. Now, there is a lot of expectations for Rover, now that Havoc Rover has been a staple DPS since the game's launch, and that Spectre Rover has received new utility thanks to the Spectrophasal team archetype. But what does Aero Rover bring to the table? And is it going to be worth switching? Well, I'm going to be talking about what Aero Rover does, and then how I see Aero Rover being used in the future. First off, the basic attacks. It's mostly just what you've already seen before. However, after the third basic attack, Aero Rover will launch a flying blade that will do some arrow damage. Additionally, after using heavy attack, you can immediately transition into your third basic attack, and after your third basic or your heavy attack, you can do another heavy attack that does more damage. But I don't see these being used much in the regular rotation. As for the skill, the regular Aero Rover skill will just have Aero Rover go into the air and do a slash of arrow damage, nothing special here. However, when you are in the air, you can use your resonance skill, and instead this will convert every single negative status on the enemy into arrow erosion. This will be the only way for Aero Rover to apply the arrow erosion effect. There is no other way for them to do it, which is really interesting if you ask me. I think what they are trying to do here is make it so Aero Rover and Phoebe is a suitable team for Cardathea in the future, because I highly suspect Cardathea is going to be an arrow erosion character. Moving on to the Resonance Liberation, Aero Rover will just do some arrow damage and also heal your party members. Because yes, Aero Rover gets the trend of Spectre Rover being a DOT applier who can also heal, so you can easily run Rejuvenating Glow on the Aero Rover. And then finally, the Forte circuit. First, Aero Rover's Forte bar has a maximum of 120 points. Aero Rover gets 20 points after intro skill, 10 points after the third or fourth basic attack, and then 25 points after using his special aerial attack. Now, this special aerial attack can be triggered in a number of ways. There are 2 aerial attacks in a row, so you only need to trigger this action twice and do both the aerial attacks to get 100 Forte, and you get the final 20 from the intro skill. You trigger this aerial attack by casting a normal attack after either using the aerial skill, intro skill, or after a heavy attack. So it's clear that you're going to do the first aerial attack after your intro skill, and then once you're in the air, you use the aerial skill, after which you are able to use the aerial attacks again, and because you use your intro skill, you are now at 120 Forte. But why do you want 120 Forte? Well, when you have the maximum Forte, you can cast an enhanced skill that will do a pretty okay amount of damage. It will consume 120 Forte total, which should be all of your Forte because that is the cap. This is going to be your main way of regenerating Concerto energy, and thus it's going to be the main way you trigger your outro skill. Speaking of outro skill, let's discuss the intro and outro skill next. The intro skill will just do arrow damage, but like I previously mentioned, it will also regenerate Forte and allow you to do your special aerial attacks afterwards, which is not mentioned in the description itself, but it's mentioned in the Forte. And then as for the outro skill, whenever the outro skill is cast, all your team members gain Eclipse, and when your teammates have Eclipse, their attacks are able to increase the stack amount for arrow erosion by 3. Because arrow erosion normally stacks only up to 3 times, and Aero Rover makes this 6. So if you have, for example, a Phoebe in your team who is applying 10 stacks of Spectrophasal, and then Aero Rover converts it to arrow erosion, you will have 6 stacks of arrow erosion instead of the regular 3. So this outro skill is vital to making arrow erosion teams work, at least until we get future arrow erosion characters who will be able to exploit this effect further. Now, moving on to the inherent skills. The first one will make it so after your intro skill, the Aero Rover gains 20% attack for free, which is going to be a neat damage increase to a character that kind of does okay damage at best. And then there is the second inherent skill. The Liberation will be able to heal for 20% more, which is pretty nice. Considering the fact that Aero Rover is going to have some pretty okay healing under their belt, being able to heal more is pretty nice for that extra bit of survivability, but I know that a lot of people don't actually care for the survivability, so it's going to be a useless passive to most people. It's clear that Aero Rover is going to be a part of future arrow erosion teams, however, to which extent we don't really know, because we haven't seen another arrow erosion character yet. Rover is our literal first one, and being a support makes it a bit more questionable because there's literally no one for the Rover to support currently. Which, I mean, that's gonna be a temporary issue, and there's plenty of uses for the Spectra and Havoc Rover still, so I don't think it's a big deal. But it does add a lot of uncertainty into the Aero Rover's usage rate, because Aero Rover actually has a pretty good baseline kit, I feel like, but it depends entirely on how future Aero Erosion characters are handled, mainly being Shakana and Cardathea, because those are going to be the characters around which the Aero Rover is going to be balanced, as they are going to be the most recent Aero characters after the Aero Rover, which means that either Shakana makes Aero Rover irrelevant, or Shakana just makes you want to use the Aero Rover even more. I suspect that we're going to see another Phoebe situation, where Shakana is going to be an Aero Erosion support, but will be capable of DPSing until Cardathea comes out, after which she will become a support for Cardathea. There's also a new set for Aero Erosion, which is more supportive, even furthering the claim that Shakana and Rover will be built to be a support, and then we will be getting a new DPS set for Aero within 2.4 for Cardathea. Now I know that Cardathea's signature echo is already in the beta, being Fleur-de-Lis's sword. However, they've added new sets to old echoes before. They're literally doing this update, for example with the Hurriclaw, becoming an echo for this new Aero set. So I think it's incredibly likely that the new Fleur-de-Lis's sword echo is going to be added to a future DPS Aero set meant for Cardathea. But that's enough about Aero Rover's team situation, because it really just boils down to, we will see. What we do know, however, is Aero Rover's signature weapon. Because yes, the Rover is getting a signature 5-star weapon. It will be available during an event within the 2.2 update. It has a base attack of 587 and gives 38.8% energy regen, making it sure that Rover does want energy and does not have an energy requirement of 0. However, this weapon will most likely cover all the energy needs. When the Rover causes healing, the resonant skill damage of the wielder will be increased by 26% on R5, lasting for 15 seconds. This is going to be pretty good, because most of Aero Rover's relevant damage counts as skill. And then, whenever the Aero Rover holds this weapon, when the target is hit, the target's aero resistance will be reduced by 20.8% for 30 seconds. This is going to be the thing that makes Aero Rover actually viable in non-Aero Erosion teams, as you are able to use the Aero Rover with Rejuvenating Glow in a GN team. However, do know that this is always going to lose to Shorekeeper or Verena. It's not going to be better than either of them, no matter what the scenario. So while you can use Aero Rover with your GN, it's not really something I recommend if you have an alternative. But it is an overall good sword. 20.8% aero resistance shred is pretty nice. And now finally, let's look at the sequences. After casting the special aerial tech within the Forte, Rover will gain interruption resistance for 3 seconds. This is mainly going to be convenience, but adds literally nothing for your damage. The second sequence will make it so after Resonant Skill, all teammates gain continuous healing. Rover already had some pretty decent healing, so I don't think this is going to be very relevant. But it is a nice bonus. S3 gives the Aero Rover just free 30% aero damage. That's it, there's nothing else there, it's just 30% aero damage. So that's neat, I guess. Rover's S4 will give Rover 60% skill damage bonus after casting the Forte aerial attack, which is actually pretty good. 60% damage bonus for their biggest damage contributor is what I would like to call very nice. Then for S6, it will increase the Rover's Liberation damage multiplier by 60%. The multiplier of this ability already wasn't high, so just giving it more damage is kind of a waste of a sequence, I'm not gonna lie. It's a really cool animation, but the damage is not what you're going to be relying on. And then finally for S6, the damage multiplier of the Forte enhanced skill is increased by 60%. Now this is an actually good sequence when it comes to damage multiplier, because the enhanced skill is the highest multiplier within the Aero Rover's kit, so having this be increased by 60% is actually pretty nice. Aero Rover is looking to be a very interesting character, but we really cannot say how good they will be until we get leaks for Shakana and Cardathea, because it's very clear that Aero Rover is going to be designed around their existence, which makes me a little confused as to why they're being released now and not alongside Shakana or Cardathea, but that's just my take. What do you think of the Aero Rover? Are you excited? Are you going to be swapping your element when they come out? I'm probably going to wait until there's going to be a team in which I can actually use the Aero Rover in. But I think that the animations alone make the Aero Rover at least worth building. But if you have any questions, be sure to comment down below, or join my Discord, in which I'm very active. So if you want to make sure I answer, my Discord is the best place to go. Also, every Saturday on 2 PM, I'm going to be streaming at Central European Time. So if you want to see more of me or ask me something personally, be sure to check that out. And subscribe to the channel to get notified for when I go live. But that'll be it from me. Peace.